Welcome to the Melanated Midlife podcast. I don't know how you made it here, but I'm really grateful that you stopped by. We've got a lot of information here that I'm hoping is going to inspire you. And by inspiration, I'm speaking directly to people that are just like me. We are turning 50. We are, of course, a very deep melanated diaspora of folks that have a lot of stories to tell. And right here is where I hope you hear what you need, the encouragement, the position, the pivot that you want to make. We're going to be sharing all those stories so that you feel empowered to do the exact same thing. So you probably have heard of people having a midlife crisis. Well, with my story and my husband's, ours was more of a midlife pivot. And it was a very bold pivot because we turned a lot of things about our lives completely on its ear as we reach this point, this season of our lives. And I can tell you that at least for me, it could be because I'm looking for it, but it feels like in pop culture, midlife is having a moment. And everybody's talking about aging. We're talking about menopause, thank God, because menopause is a bitch. But we are talking about this a lot out in the open right now, but I didn't hear people specifically speaking to me, and I mean me as a Black woman. And in particular, I'm part of the hip-hop generation. And I mean, I'm sorry, we were the creators of Fly. We knew how to jam. We had the best music. We had the best clothes. And what happens when the hip-hop generation turns 50? That was the question that I wanted more people to have their specific answers for. And right now, with us turning 50, everything about that era in our lives, in our development, it's starting to come back around. You know, I'm hearing more TLC now than I did back in the 90s. I see more kids wearing Wu-Tang t-shirts, and I want to stop and give them a pop quiz and say, tell me one Wu-Tang song that you know about. All of these things are happening, and I can't be the only one noticing it. So because of that, we came here to create this podcast so that we could have those conversations. But not only from the cultural standpoint, also with us personally, we have a lot of things as we're turning 50 that we probably have put off a little while. And I know for me personally, I've had my season as a career person. And then I went into the season as somebody's wife, somebody's mother, somebody's employee. And all of that is starting to shift. And I'm starting to rethink of who I am and what is the identity that I want to carry into this season of my life. So instead of having that title of being something to someone, I'm reevaluating who I am for myself. And right now it's feeling pretty good. I'm feeling like I'm probably entering my best phase. And I can't be the only one. So I want to hear y'all's story about that as well. But I'll tell you, it's a kind of a short window of time that we have right now to do a lot of these bold things, because I call this kind of our sandwich era, where we are kind of sandwiched in between two eras of our lives, where we're younger, energetic, and we're probably a caretaker to a child or children, our families, nurturing them, getting them, developed and up and independent and on their own. And then we have this other period that is lingering, where we are sandwiched in between being a caretaker of a different sense, where our parents are getting older. We're thinking about what is life going to look like for them when we switch roles and become their caretakers. And what exactly that all involves when we're trying to do our thing independently and bold, but mom and daddy might need some extra care. So those conversations are the ones that I want to have. But those goals that we have, they're not out of reach. If you're turning 50 and you want some inspiration to do some things and follow some dreams that might have been deferred, this is where I want you to hear about it. So let me hear from you. If you've got some stories to share or maybe some things that you can teach me, I'm all ears. But the Melanated Midlife podcast is where those conversations will be happening. So let's do it. Today's conversation is really about our personal journey. Did the suburban life, the big house, raise the kids.
When family and friends heard what we were doing, they were shocked. You went and created a web page and took pictures of all our furniture and marked it all the way down to like a fire sale. And I really don't deal with a lot of regrets. I might reflect on some things and go like, maybe we shouldn't have handled it this way or that way. But I have peace with the decision.
All right. Today for this episode, I am joined by my husband and partner in all things, Brian Willery. Thank you, babe, for coming to be here.
Thank you for the invite last night.
You're being a good sport. I appreciate it because today's conversation is really about our personal journey and pretty much the inspiration for this entire project. We were a little bit ahead of the game where we were kind of anticipating that we wanted to do something different. Didn't quite have a picture of what that looked like. We had the stereotypical, time together. This year makes 22 years married, I think 25, 26 altogether, and did the suburban life, bought the big house, raised the kids, had the very quiet existence for a very long time. Not to say there weren't challenges, because of course we know that we've had a lot of challenges that we've overcome and who knows what's still to come. But when we got to this point, we said, okay, we want to downsize. We want something less complicated. We want to be more spontaneous. So tell me a little bit about what life was like for us during that time and what basically led to us deciding to go down this road to pivot.
I think during that time, life was more routine. It was, get up, make sure the kids are up, get ready for work, get to work, follow the kids' schedule. So you're more of a partners in parenting versus in a marriage. So it was more routine surrounded by the kids.
Yeah. And living where the kids were going to have the best of everything. So the best schools, the quiet neighborhood, the trees, you were always the Christmas decorating guy on the block. And we finally got to a point, I know you did, maybe you reached that point before I did, where you were just like, I'm over this. And we packed the kids up and decided, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to downsize. And not only are we going to downsize, we're not going to be homeowners anymore. So go back to the conversations when we made this big reveal to our family and friends and say, we're putting this house up because we had a nice house. I mean, I say that with all humility. We made that our showcase home and we entertained all the time, brought in people to just, love on them in our homestead. And when we decided we were going to let go of that, what was the reaction from everybody?
The reaction was surprise because it was the non-traditional route. And I think for me, it was about more peace of mind because I think men and women view home ownership different. Men view it as a piece of property that we have to maintain. So I always say, when a man hears the sound in a house, we think, how much is it going to cost? Women is more of a showcase for hosting. And so we had that, but we'd come off of multiple years remodels, repairs, more remodels and more repairs. And I'm a little cheap. So I was involved a little bit more in the repairs and the remodels than I should have been. And it's exhausting. And that doesn't guarantee you that things are going to be trouble free. Right. So, we had that phase of the remodel, repair. And then if you remember, we had lunch with an investor friend. And this investor friend, talked to us about his journey of living in a home for a while, investing in a home, and then sold the home at the peak of the real estate market and then moved into an apartment temporarily. Right. But once he got into the apartment, it wasn't a temporary thing. It was a permanent thing because he realized he didn't have to worry about anything. Yeah. So
everything's done for you in an apartment life.
Everything is done for you. Yeah. So it might be a little more expensive on a monthly basis, but the peace of mind is what I enjoy the most. But to go back to your question, it was, I think when family and friends heard what we were doing, they were shocked. Like I said before, it's a non-traditional route. Right. And at least in our community, it's not something that we normally do. Culturally, we get into a place and we stay there.
Well, and not only that, the message that we grow up with, because previous generations, the most recent generation before us, home ownership was a way that we were taught to build wealth. That was the only way that was most accessible for us to build wealth. We weren't aware of all the other avenues to generate income and to invest it and make it grow. So it was always about get the good job, stay there forever, get the pension, and then at whatever retirement time, you go home to this paid off house and live happily ever after.
Right. But it's not happily ever after, because you generally retire. And again, I always go back to repairs. And so you're sitting around the house and you can say, hey, let's redo the kitchen. Hey, let's redo the floors. And so you end up dumping money into the project or the house, which is we're going to call a project. And it's kind of a cyclical thing. You're always looking for a project to do. You know, one of the things that I think about is like Saturday mornings here, we're doing a podcast. The Saturday morning in the suburbs, that's time spent at Lowe's or Home Depot or your local hardware store, preparing for a project, working on maintenance, getting the flower beds ready for the summer. And those are things that we just don't have to worry about.
Yeah, because you especially, you were very hands-on, like you said, with the yard, which you did a fantastic job. I mean, everything, pat yourself on the back, don't strain yourself. But that was something you took pride in. And when people came by, it was, like I said, it was a showcase house, so when we decided to let that go and people were scratching their heads, it's just like, wait a second, what are you going to do if you need to XYZ? What are you going to do for this? What are you going to do? Like we have an annual Christmas party, or used to have an annual Christmas party. And it was all a part of this lifestyle that we invited everybody into. So it was us letting go of that, and then also ending that era for our loved ones and our extended family too. But why were we doing this now? I mean, you and I are in our 50s. We're still a ways from going to the house for full retirement and hanging it up. So what could you share about, besides, the maintenance, what made now the perfect time to make that change?
For me, now is always the time. I think when you hit middle age and you go through, or some people go through a crisis. I don't think that I've gone through a crisis, but when you hit middle age, you're thinking about how much time you have left, or at least I think about how much time I have left and what can I accomplish. Mm-hmm. And there's never going to be a perfect time. So
we said that about having kids once upon a time, never a perfect time.
So why not now? Everyone says, hey, let's wait for the perfect time to do this. Let's wait. There's never a perfect time. Sometimes you just have to go for it. Yeah. Now, you do have to be well planned and thought out and make sure, that it's something that you can handle from a fiscal basis, logistically with your job, but we work remotely. Mm-hmm. And, the other thing for me is that the entertainment value. Yeah. When you live in the suburbs, you have a lot of cookie cutter environments. Same restaurants, same stores, same people.
Same school events.
Same school events over and over again. And when you don't have children in school events don't really matter anymore. So I didn't care to be around that environment anymore. And we got to the point, once our kids were old enough to be at home alone, we drove into the city.
Yeah.
We drove into the city.
45 minutes into the city.
We tried different places to listen to live music, different coffee shops. We went on Best Taco in Houston, scavenger hunt a couple of years ago.
I remember
and for me, the drive back home was okay until we got to the main strip, which took us an additional 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it was just painful to do. And I romanticized about when is the moment going to come where I'm not making this drive, where I can go and have fun and be 5 minutes away from the fun, where I can go and have fun and be 10 minutes away from the fun. Yeah. And so we've gone from the 45-minute drive to the 10-minute walk across the street or around the corner for entertainment, and a 5-minute drive, 5-minute walk home. So. Yeah.
And like right now, we're able to be spontaneous like we never thought we could. And, the walk where we are specifically right now was very strategic, because we were picky. We didn't just pack up and go to any apartment. We wanted to be in an area where certain lifestyle that we wanted. We were willing to pay for that. And we did the research for a while, the cost analysis, our own personal cost analysis of what we were giving up versus what we were gaining. And that was the financial side. But what about your life in particular do you see? And not life, of course, like your goals, your personal things that you have gained as a result. And I remember, I'll lead you into this because I don't know what day it was, but it was early on living here. And you said, I'm able to wake up and just have open time. And that hit me. And I was happy for you to have that moment. But tell me more about that.
When you have children, your time and your days are scheduled around your children. Yeah. You don't even date your partner anymore. It's about the kids. And so I woke up one day and realized that there was no practice to drive to. There were no theater plays to go see. There were no orchestra events to go to. There were no more band events to go to. There were no more fundraisers to attend and participate in. And so all of a sudden you have this free time. And, right. With my time, I've enrolled into advanced studies at a local college for myself. And I now have time for that. I had time before, but it would have been harder to do. Yeah. But now the time is yours and it doesn't belong to children anymore. Mm-hmm. And so the realization is, it's the get busy living. Mm. And so now that the kids are gone and you have that time, you need to get busy. And there are a lot of things that you may have wanted to do or try. Now's the time to do those things. Yeah. Because you don't want to leave here not trying or not at least investigating an idea. You want to be able to say, maybe I try and fail, but I want to try. Yeah. I want to see what's out there. I want to see what's different. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times different is uncomfortable for people, but it's not uncomfortable for me. Mm-hmm. I have the time. I'm willing to make mistakes, and I'm also willing to take on a challenge. Yeah.
Well, there's got to be more challenges. Have you identified anything about this shift just with our living arrangements that has been a little bit of a challenge, or at least something that you had to mindfully get used to?
For me, it's simple things. For example, pulling into the driveway, getting groceries out of the car. Mm. We live in an apartment building now, so I invested in a cart. So you go to the grocery store, and that's the other thing we live downtown. And when you live downtown, there's not a grocery store on every corner like it is in the suburbs. So it's sometimes a 10, 12-minute drive to a grocery store. So we had to invest $110 in a cart to wheel all the groceries from the car, but nothing major for me. I would rather do that than cut grass. Yeah. I would rather do that than get up on a house and try to replace a shingle. Mm-hmm. I would rather do that than pressure washing the driveway. Yeah. So as far as small inconveniences, I have a pharmacy nearby that I can walk to. We're in the middle of what probably could be considered a restaurant district.
Entertainment district.
Entertainment area. We can open our patio door and listen to live music. We can spontaneously walk across the street for fine dining, wine, or whatever it is we're interested in the moment, coffee, food, and probably some more food, and then a little bit more food. So the other thing is the dining out bill has grown, but it's been good. Yeah. So I don't have a lot of regrets as far as moving. Maybe a little bit of privacy. Okay. Yeah. Little bit of privacy because you do share a wall, but we're in a high rise. It's a concrete based building, so it's not a lot of noise. But we have the common spaces like we have right now. Both of us work remotely. I leave all the time and go downstairs and study. Go downstairs and work. I have a gym in the building. I don't have to drive to the gym anymore. I just get on the elevator, hit the button, and I'm there. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to love about the move for me. I don't have a lot of regrets about leaving the suburbs.
Yeah, and like right now, I kind of see this, somebody else, I think years ago, labeled this the sandwich era of life, where you have a little window of time between taking care of kids and then sending them off into their lives, sandwiched in between possibly being a caregiver for aging parents.
Right.
And so that was a very real consideration when we first talked about this. What if mom, dad, grandma is going to need us full time, or, what about that? And we decided that what we're doing right now doesn't have to be a permanent decision.
Right.
So what are the thoughts you want to have?
When you get to a certain age, for me, I feel like you have to handle things as they show up. When things come up, you handle it. You can plan for certain things, but you have to live at the same time. You don't want to just focus on the what ifs, contemplate the ifs. You have to be able to live. So there's at one point, if you remember, we built a house that had was considered a mother-in-law suite to make available for a parent or grandparent that became ill. And that was great. And that was good in that phase of our lives. But right now, it's kind of our time. If our parents need us, grandparents need us, of course, we're going to be there. But right now, we're in a position to enjoy our time. Yeah. So I'm going to focus on that. And when we need to pivot, we'll pivot. We're not, and the other thing about renting in a building, you're not tied to the building.
Yeah.
When the lease is up, we can pack up and go buy something.
Yeah.
If we need to have a mother-in-law suite again, we can make that happen. We need to have a father-in-law, grandpa suite, whatever it is, we can make that happen. But that's the freedoms you have when you move to an apartment building, or you move in a city and you decide to become a renter.
Yeah. And looking back with everything, like you said, we don't have a lot of stuff anymore. So physically, our environment is smaller, but also our load, our personal possessions, we condensed all of that. So people are probably wondering, okay, you're selling me. I get it. This sounds fantastic. But logistically, we had some steps we had to follow. We did it very quickly because you and I are just type A people that are very, on it to get it done. But what did that logistically look like to decide, want to sell the house and want to move? What tell us, share it with everybody what that looked like.
Well, I'll start with the painful part. The painful portion for me is that we had a lot of nice stuff, and my wife sold a lot of it really cheaply because she wanted to get rid of it. And that was tough for me because I invest well and I want to return on my investment.
Okay,
but,
fair.
My wife is somebody who went pennies on a dollar for a lot of things that we had. So that was the toughest part for me. But to go back to the beginning of it, I referenced a conversation we had with an investor friend. Right after that, and I'm the researcher of the two of us. Right after that, I started looking at apartment buildings. I started looking at, rental prices, renter's insurance and things like that. And one of my neighbors told me years ago, he said, if you've ever been in a house for a long time, you accumulate more junk than you realize. So once you decide to move, start putting a little bit at the curb for the garbage man every single week.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. If you remember, I started cleaning out the garage. We had multiple refrigerators. I gave a refrigerator away.
Multiple microwaves,
multiple ovens,
multiple coffee makers.
So I did a clean out of the garage. I started getting rid of things. And then the toughest thing for me, when I knew it was time to go or I was getting ready to go, is when I let my lawnmower go, because I was a yard guy. So once I let the lawnmower go, I knew, hey, I'm ready to go.
You were in.
Yeah. So we were a home of multiple living spaces, multiple dining areas,
large bedrooms.
And so large bedrooms, large study equipment, a lot of closets. And you start to learn what you can live without. And we went through you start going through a lot of boxes and storage that you haven't opened in years.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things, like you say, if you haven't opened in that certain number of years, you don't need it.
You don't need it.
So I think our approach was every weekend I moved some things out to the curb. And if you remember, you went and created a web page and took pictures of all our furniture and marked it all the way down to like a fire sale. And again, that was a very painful moment for me, but it became even more real when people responded right away, because you published a website and we got phone calls and emails right away.
Within minutes,
people earmarking items for themselves.
Yeah.
And so people start showing up with trucks to pick up items, and you're just like, okay, all right, we're really doing this. Yeah. And we started to realize how much we could live without. And we began to celebrate every trip that a truck, that someone showed up in a truck and carried something off. Because for me, dollar wise, it was one less thing I had to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everything, and I keep going back to the house itself. So the story of how we came to that house, that could be a totally different episode. But at that point, the house was an older house. It was very dated, carpet everywhere, really dark, not a lot of natural light. And I'm like selling the house as if it's something I miss. But we customized it. We basically had a fully customized Akilah and Brian house. And when we let that go and sold everything, which granted, that I take that hit, and maybe I did price things a little low, but as you and I have kind of worked well, is that we went to the end in mind. What is the goal? The goal is to offload this stuff right now. Do we want to haggle over it or do we want it gone? And so that kind of was what, and here I am defending myself, all this time later as to why.
And the way we look at it is that, we were able to bless some people with some things. Like
Absolutely.
We had a friend who was in a certain financial situation and she wanted a new living room suite.
Sure did. Yeah.
And our living room set was practically brand new. And I think you sold it for like $4 or $5, something like that. But,
it's not.
But it was a blessing to her. Or there's a neighbor's daughter who, needed some furniture and she came over and picked up things. So it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. And like I said, we were able to help people in the process. And the large investment, just kind of went away. I'm a little sad, still a little sad about it, but it worked out.
Yeah. So like right now, looking back, we've now told the whole story of where we were and how we came to making this decision. But is there any regret in how this all went down? I know, we will probably forever fight about how much we sold everything for, but
we didn't sell it. Go ahead.
Any regrets about this change? Is there something that if somebody were sitting down right now taking notes and they're like, okay, I'm gonna follow the Brian and Akilah formula for making this pivot, what would you have done differently, if anything?
I think that we did a textbook job of moving. And as far as regrets, I really don't deal with a lot of regrets. I might reflect on some things and go like, maybe we shouldn't have handled it this way or that way. But I have peace with the decision. And with any investment, you're gonna have some things that don't pan out the way that they're supposed to. But if there's a substantial amount of gain, which this move has been an amazing amount of gain for me, there's not a lot of regrets.
I love that.
So I mean, and we can't focus on it because that's done anyway. So we have everything here. We've hosted Christmas brunch here, and I think we actually see our family
probably more
than we did when we lived in the suburbs. Yeah. We're actually closer to the majority of my siblings. Any social function. Remember, I had a good friend of mine had a 50th birthday party, and everybody drove into town. And
it was walking distance from here,
and we walked.
Yeah.
And we went for cocktails afterwards to another place, and we were able to walk. Our building has a car service that drops you off within 2 miles of your apartment downtown, and 2 miles in the downtown area is a lot of real estate. So there are days we don't start our cars up. There's no vehicle wear and tear.
I actually forget where my car is parked sometimes.
And like say, I walk to multiple floors sometimes looking for my car. So I don't have a lot of regrets. I have enjoyed our move and our change. I think the only drawback is the dining out bill and your cocktail bill.
Oh, I'm just, I enjoy a spicy margarita. Just anyway. Now, thinking about that, everything that you have just described, car service, valet, we have a concierge 24 hours a day. That doesn't sound like every apartment complex. So we are painting a picture for people of a very luxurious lifestyle. So we decided that we were going to pay for what we wanted. We didn't, really go second rate on any of what we're doing right now. So I want to be very open and honest that Could we have necessarily done this, without kids 20 years ago? Probably not. No. So there was a very deliberate financial decision that went along with this. But, people are probably wondering, listening to this, okay, they sold their house. They got a big payday. Where's everything going? They just, gonna throw that out the window. But you have some other goals that you're considering. So when we talk about culturally within the Black community, that buying that house, moving to the suburbs, and pretty much just staying put is kind of the story that is very, very common. But there are other ways to grow wealth that is not always taught to young folks. So you want to talk about that? One
of the things that, again, I reflect on many, many investor conversations is that a lot of the schools of thought today is not to buy a house for you to pay for. You buy a house for someone else to pay for. Mm-hmm. You buy the house and rent it out and let someone else pay for it. You have your tax write-off. You have it becomes an investment property. Mm-hmm. And if worse comes to worse, in a couple of years, if the renters decide to move, you can move in it if you want to. Mm-hmm. So you have that freedom. Yeah. And you don't have the maintenance. Yeah. So you have the maintenance of the tenants, but you don't have the maintenance of the everyday property because that belongs to the tenants. And again, it's all about the freedoms. And another thing I want to talk about is when we decided to move, we didn't originally target downtown.
We didn't. We did not.
We targeted some of the
another
up-and-coming
gentrified
up-and-coming gentrified areas. Yeah. And I think downtown was the last place that we considered. Mm-hmm. We went to a property, and I think one of the property managers there talked about another property downtown that's a couple blocks from here. And I went ahead and booked the viewing or whatever or the site walk, and we ended up going and loving it. Yeah. And so I looked at more buildings downtown.
Didn't even know all these residences were downtown.
Didn't realize this even existed. Yeah. But I'm very thankful. But that's, that's research. That's what happens. If you search long enough, you'll find the result. Yeah. But back to the investing, again, when we talk about home ownership, it's an investment that you never stop pouring money into, even after it's paid for. Yeah. So when you think about the remodel, you're always paying taxes on it.
We remodeled what? No.
We did two remodels. Well, we did three remodels.
Yeah, we did 3 remodels. Yeah.
So when you talk about putting $150,000 in a house, and we were very lucky that we got our asking price for the house
very quickly.
We were able to, take a lot of the profits and put into interest in earning accounts. And so, the money is making money for us, and we don't live above our means either.
No.
So the shirt I have on is a shirt I think I proposed to Ian 23 years ago. So.
Serious?
No, it's not. I just bought this last year.
You would get me.
Yeah. So, but no, we don't spend big.
I'm sorry. My memory is not what it used to be. So
this shirt would look really good for 24 years old.
Well, let's be honest. You actually do have a style. So you've been consistent with that style pretty much since we met. So,
that's because I'm poor.
But we're both kind of low key. So, going back to the point of selling everything, I sold most of my closet. I had a lot of business suits and things that would be considered proper office attire. Right. And like you say, took that and blessed somebody else with it. Some nice designer lined suits that were not being used in the 3 years that I've been working from home. But hey, if I got a job tomorrow where I had to pack up and go into somebody's office building, I guess I would just have to go shopping. There was no need to hold on to that.
It's for me, I'm thankful because right now my work attire is gym shorts and T-shirts. Mm-hmm. So I'm very thankful for that. I would have liked more time to prepare for this interview, but I would have gotten my teeth whitened. I thought about a man unit to kind of make myself look younger because I'm sensitive about
I like
my
you like
head.
this. I like you like this.
Hey, it's great. And I kind of have that Mr. and Mrs. Smith feeling right here. Like I would be like Black Pitt.
Black Pitt?
Yeah.
Black Brad Pitt. I can't even say it fast.
I would kind of be like Black Pitt right here. I'm going to come up with a name for you, though.
I think we're past the era of like having the cute combined names for couples. I don't think we ever came up with one.
Like Braquila.
Braquila. That's exactly what I was about to say. Okay.
Or Brillery.
You are messing me up. I'm trying to be all grown up here to talk about this stuff. So anyway, but let's close it out and let's give some advice to people that we've now talked to them for whatever amount of minutes about why we made the change, how we made the change, how it's benefited us. But if we gave a masterclass right now and say, what are the things you need to prepare today if you know that this is a transition that's on the horizon for you? But what are some of the big things that you would tell them to get literally their house in order?
First, I would charge them for that knowledge because at the end of the day, we need to monetize as much as we can.
You're right. I'll give you that.
I wouldn't just give them that knowledge. I'm a project manager, and the first thing I would do is say, put a timeline together. Of course, like you said before, like, hey, what's the expected outcome? How much money do you want to spend? And also plan on, it's going to cost you money to move, not just in the moving, but if you're selling a house, and that's something that we ran into, it's going to cost you money to get the house ready.
Yeah.
And if the buyers come in with the inspector, is also, they're going to find things that you're not prepared to pay for.
Experience.
So
we got defensive with that inspector.
Right, because I put so much into the house, but the inspector went through with a fine-tooth comb, of course, because they have the best interest of the buyers in mind. Yeah. So be prepared to spend money to get your house ready to sell. Yeah. That would be the first thing I say to do, is get a budget for that. Go back to your timeline and determine how much of the furniture and items in your house you need to have to move. Establish a budget on how much you want to spend on a monthly basis. You still want to be able to move or transition into this new place and still save.
And not be at the top of your budget. That was a term we used a lot.
Right. So there are a lot of different factors, and most of them start and end with money. Yeah. So how much you want to spend to prepare or to move, how much you want to spend to move. Do you want to give your items away? Do you want to sell your items? Do you want to donate them to, the local women's shelter, Salvation Army, things like that? So it's not something that you would do in a month. That is something I would say is going to take you a minimum of 6 months to plan for.
Okay. I appreciate that timeline. Yeah, because I think we probably took a lot of time. Well, I won't say we took a lot of time. We had a lot of conversations, but our conversations were behind the scenes before everybody knew about it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, this might look bad on us, but our kids moved out August 11th and August 20th, and we moved August 30th. So I hope that's not an indication of how we felt about our kids, but
we loved our kids.
The plan was to get our things together and go.
Yeah.
Because I think the idea became very romantic to me to leave the suburbs and the home that you had been in for a while, because you get to start dating your partner in a new environment. You get to do new things. I mean, when you stay in the suburbs, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're going to go to the same restaurant you've been going to, or you're going to have to drive an hour to get there. Yeah. So now, I Google things all the time. We have 40 coffee shops within 2 miles of us, and we could pick one any day. And coffee shops are a thing. I know that coffee shops have been bashed for first dates, but if you've been married a long time, a coffie shop is a good place to go and hang out.
Hey, those were our early dates, and you hated coffee.
And I didn't drink coffee then. Yeah. I went for you. And stranger things have happened.
Hey, that just is a testament to how badly you wanted this to work out. So.
Okay. But yeah, so, I romanticized the idea. There were just so many things that we could do, and there was opportunities to kind of start fresh, not just living, but as a couple.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'm very anxious and patient about what else is to come, because like we have said together, this is one season of life. This is not necessarily the end of the story. We are looking forward to whatever else opportunities come our way. So we're here now. We're going to enjoy the heck out of it. And then when season B, season C, season D comes up, we'll be ready to pivot again. So.
We're in our 50s. It's not a lot of seasons left. Yeah.
We're still
you
young.
got a couple seasons.
We're still young. So, okay. All right. Well, babe, I appreciate you coming. I hope that maybe we could talk again if you'll put up with me with more notice.
Yeah, give me a little more notice. I want to be able to go to the gym and get myself together.
Yeah.
Also, you need to take a look at my rider this time.
You have demands?
Had demands. And
none of them came out.
None of them were met.
Okay.
So
I will do better.
I'm going to talk with your production staff about this, and hopefully things work out better next time.
I want you to come back, so I will do better.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Thanks, babe.
Thank you.